Are you a teacher and you wonder why you work so hard and yet it's never quite enough, is it? Today, I hope you're going to join me. We're going to look at productivity. We're going to look at your outer and your inner self. We're going to look at challenge and criticism. We're going to look at how we can be our best self without constantly striving. Striving is a difficult word, but it's not a healthy word, actually. I was a workaholic for years and I always wanted to do more. I always wanted to support more. As I got higher up in schools, I wanted to help more and to have a greater impact. And I guess we all do as teachers. We can't ever do enough for the children, for our colleagues, can you, for our schools? But actually, there's a very unhealthy element to that. And yes, it's about juggling home. It's about juggling work. It's about juggling health. But where do you come into all of that? And how does that sit with you? So let's have a look at that very briefly today and see if you can take something away that helps you, a strategy that perhaps gives you a sense of who you are and how you want to be to stop the striving, the workaholicness, which I frankly did for about 30 years and ended up burning out. So now I'm having to learn to do life a different way, and it's not easy. Can you envisage your heart? So let's take a child's picture of a heart, a line round the edges. Now, I don't know about you, but my edges are probably pretty leathery and tough. And I go into school and I put on a sort of facade, if you like, of okayness, of bright and smiley. I wanted to be cheerful to people because I knew lots of people were getting a lot of grief. They were stressed, they were exhausted. Life, work, everything gets on top of us, doesn't it? So my outside of my heart would be pretty tough and leathery, but inside it's very soft. How is yours inside? Can you visualize that? What's inside it? Can you try and visualize what words you might use for inside? Would it be teachable? Would it be vulnerable? Would it be brave? I wonder what you would use. What words? For me, it would certainly be vulnerable and teachable. I'm a great believer in we never stop learning. I'm 56, still learning every day, and usually the hard way, sorry to say. But I'm also very sensitive inside, and I'm not sure that always everyone understands that. I would be talking to parents, staff, children who get angry and frustrated, and I get all of that. But actually, they're assuming that you're tough, like you're presenting as tough and okay and professional, frankly. But inside, you're sensitive and soft. So how can we manage that? Well, number one, I would be saying is to be aware of it. Because actually, we can't keep going like that because something has to give. You get knocked. And we get challenged and criticized and judged in school, don't we? We have inspections, we have observations, we have evaluations, grades constantly. And that's life, I guess. But when I started teaching over 30 years ago, we didn't have most of that. I do remember Ofsted in my first year of teaching when I was in Brixton in London. And they were so lovely, so kind. But they probably didn't have the same pressures on them either that we have now and they have. I'm not making a political statement about Ofsted, by the way, but it was just really different in those days. I didn't have to do SATs with my class or anything like that in my first year of teaching. Very different. But now we have the expectations. We know we have to do the best for the children. We know why we do it. We're passionate, aren't we? Doing our best so that the children have the best experience possible. But how do we protect ourselves? Are you striving for approval? I remember going to a head teacher once and saying, well, I think I was an assistant head at the time, and saying to them, am I doing things the way you're doing them? Because it was all quite new. And they looked at me and they said, Rowena, why do you need approval? It's a sign of weakness. Just get on with it. And I've thought a lot about that because we all need approval. It's just a human trait. We crave it. And unfortunately, we don't get a lot of it. So we need to find ways internally to access the approval, the affirmation, the credibility. And that for me came from generally going and seeing other people doing great things and telling them it was fab, because actually I could make a difference to them that really helped me. It's lovely if a parent says, "Oh my goodness, you did such a wonderful thing for my child today." Amazing. If you get it, take it, grip it, hold it close to your heart, pop it into that visual space. If a child gives you a hug and says, "I've got it, yes," or they suddenly write a whole essay when they've been giving you a paragraph all term, internalize that win. But if we're constantly striving for approval, we're not going to get it. We just don't. Very few schools do that in my experience. I've worked in fab schools and I've worked in really struggling schools. So what about performance? Is your identity linked with how well you do? Because that's really dangerous. For me, for years, I was striving to do more, to do better, to make a greater difference, because I felt that meant I had value, but it didn't. What it actually meant is, yeah, I did quite well at work, but actually what it also meant was that my children didn't see me. So often I wasn't prioritizing them. Desperately sad. So where is your identity stemming from? Is it stemming from the fact that you are created to be you? Who are you? What are your strengths? Can you recognize? Could you even jot down now? Press pause and jot down your 3 greatest strengths. Or if you're feeling courageous, I would actually challenge you to go to 3 safe colleagues or friends and say to them, "What are my greatest strengths?" Ask them. I did that once and I was so shocked. My 3 strengths that I value in me actually didn't tally with what other people saw in me, but I was boggled by what they said about me. They said I brought joy, kindness, and problem solving. Whereas for me, I thought it was my integrity and my calm. They clearly didn't see that. What do people see in you? But if you can dare to ask them and also start to recognize it in yourself, is it your creativity? Is it your consistency? Is it your ability to communicate things really clearly? Is it your energy and your drive? What is it that are your strengths that you really value? And what do other people value about you? Try and start to form an identity within yourself where you make such a difference. Because as teachers, we give out, compassion fatigue. Hello. We so encounter that, don't we? Same as the NHS and so many other caring professions. But we can't keep giving out unless we start to recognize what impact we have and the value we have, because we have worth too. We talk about how important the children are and how we want to love them and nurture them and look after them and bring out the best in them. We need to do that for ourselves too. The best teams are doing that for each other. That's really healthy teams. So think back to that heart visual you had, that so-called tough exterior, because that's what we have to put on. You've had that dreadful morning at home with children screaming or the phone going with a drama. You walk into school and you have to go, okay, so here we go. And sometimes it's a bit of a performance, isn't it? That's okay. It's really okay. So I wonder if you can start to think about you and yourself and your identity, how you perceive success, how your performance links to that. So that way, even if you are criticized, you don't go, "Oh my goodness," and your self-esteem plummets. Or if you're overconfident when you're criticized, you say, "Oh, that can't possibly be me." Whereas if you have a teachable, sensitive heart, if you're criticized or challenged, you'll go, "Okay, let me think about that. You may well be right. That sounds like a real possibility. I can work on that. because we're all teachable. We're all learning, aren't we? Have a try. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.